It's Energumen opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. Energumen by a romping 10.
Boyle Sports has it all. Money back meetings every day. UK and Irish racing live streaming. Extra places and money back all losers offers. And a bet 10 get 40 welcome offer. Boyle Sports, this is betting.
So, hello and welcome back to episode number 14 of the Road to Cheltenham Challenge. And you can blame Mr. Groome for not getting this, of course, video out earlier in the week. He was too busy romancing. Mr. Groome.
Oh my God, I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that. Let it be said on the record. Let it be said on the record. I wanted to do this yesterday, and Barry Doyle was too busy schmoozing himself. I knew you'd hang me out straight away. I don't believe in Valentine's Day, and the missus doesn't believe in it either. So let that be on the record, Basil. You knew you'd hang me straight away.
I heard the Flower Studio in Dundalk was absolutely bombarded by Mr. Groome late on Tuesday evening, and Aperol spritzes were flying. Right. Episode 14, Mr. Groome. We're going to, I suppose, team of the show, same as always, star ratings, we 6 of them, 3 each. And as always, you're being such a Scrooge with your ratings, but we'll come to that. And of course, we will be taking a look at our own portfolios on this particular episode as well. We're 14 weeks in. You've had 13 selections. I've had 14. So you have one extra selection to put in. It's not going to be this week. But as always, everyone who is following the series, make sure and update your portfolio. Just 4 weeks to go to the Cheltenham Festival. And just a little update on the Thursday shows as well. We're going to be taking more of a focus towards, I suppose, well, this week we're going to look at the championship races at the Cheltenham Festival. Next week it'll be the novices. And the week after that, of course, there's not many weeks to go until Cheltenham. We're going to be also taking a look at the handicaps, and that'll be a day after the handicap weights are announced. So, as always, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so, and like the video as we build up, of course, to the Cheltenham Festival. And Mr. Groome, first section of the show is, of course, the prospect star ratings.
Download the Boyle Sports app and receive generous offers for new and existing customers. Boyle Sports, this is betting.
So the Scrooge of the National Hunt season, Mr. Ronan Groome, yet to give a 5. No prizes for guessing. Of course, I took Blazing Cal. I've given him a 5-star. But Ronan, we're going to come to your ones first. Top 3, Lucia, Churchstone Warrior, and John Bond. I think John Bond deserved a 1 for me, but you've given him a 3. Talk to me. Kick it off.
Start with John Bond then, seeing as you have a bit of a conflicting view. I thought he's not impressive or anything. That's why we only give him 3 stars. But I think there's a bit of an overreaction to the performance. You can only be as impressive, how impressive you can be in function of how the race is run. John Bond, it's very hard for him to look impressive in a 2-horse race, crawling around, tactical. And for me, he jumped fine. He fell asleep nearly, I think, during the race, or the jockey just wasn't. Aidan Coleman was maybe taken a bit for granted or whatever, but it was tactical the way Calico went to the front at that stage. And he's gone from 10s on shot to, I think he used his shortest, he drifted out to a 2s on the machine. So there was this stage in that race where you're thinking, oh God, this doesn't look good, or he's not going to win. But he got the job done with his kind of trademark turn of foot late on, and he's ended up winning well. He doesn't look impressive, but I think that it was a bit of an overreaction to the performance. I think if you're judging John Bond, you really need to go and judge him by the Henry VIII performance. I think that was really top class, and he showed a turn of foot there that was, lightning. Obviously, compared very well with what Edward's son did in the Tingle Creek that day. And I think El Fabiolo, now favourite for the Arkle, is maybe a bit of an overreaction. John Bond's out to about 15-8 or so. You obviously weren't as impressed with, or were willing to downgrade John Bond a lot more. I just think it's a bit of an overreaction in general from what he did.
Yeah, no, look, obviously only a 2-runner race. I couldn't believe what I was seeing really down the back. As you said, look, it was tactical. Look, maybe you have it wrong. I couldn't be interested in backing him at this point in time. Obviously, I haven't backed him to this stage, and I wouldn't plan on it after the weekend. So I think, in fairness, you mentioned he possibly might have fell asleep in the race. I think that's the angle that Nicky's holding on to as well, isn't he? He's kind of said that afterward in his comments afterwards. I think he said he had a heart attack down the back. But El Fabiolo for me obviously was a massive performance in the Irish Arkle. For me, the worry with him would be the jumping. And just interesting comments about Willie Mullins. And when we spoke about it on last week's show, you mentioned with Dysart Dynamo, you wouldn't be throwing those slips in the bin. Willie reckons that a sharper track on the old course at Cheltenham on day one in the Arkle is going to play more to his strengths. So looking like a 3-horse race at this stage, I don't see too much else getting into it. For me, wouldn't have a massive strong opinion at this stage. I'm happy with my Dysart Dynamo slip at that price going into the race, and wouldn't be giving up on him just yet. But in terms of Jambon, I thought it was pretty worrying now, to be honest. I don't know if you're still there, Mr. Groome, but let's talk Churchstone Warrior.
Still here. Sorry, yeah, you went off for a bit there. Churchstone Warrior. I was at Navan on Sunday, and I was quite impressed with him. Like he's battled really well to get the better Mahler mission. The horse that's run third is really interesting flanking maneuver going forward. But the pair of them come 15, or 3 of them come 15 lengths clear. And like this is a horse who's been rock solid all year. He's second to Galliard and Maynil at Leopardstown at Christmas. I think he ran a lovely trial here for the National Hunt Chase. Loved his attitude laid on. Jumped really well. Jonathan Sweeney, small trainer in Cork. He's had a couple of nice horses like Rosie's Hollow through his grasp. I believe the owners of this horse, Churchstone Warrior, were offered lots of money for him last year, and turned it down to go racing with him, and fair play to them. They have a nice horse, and he deserved that win. And the race was running a good time. I think it's worth pointing out as well, it was much, much, much quicker than the handicap, lower grade handicap, albeit on the card elsewhere. And I just thought it was a nice race. Now, John Sweeney,
form, isn't it? It's absolutely rock solid.
I mean, the 3 of them have come clear, and he's 6 lengths to find with Galliard and Maynil. But it's a 3 mile 6 race now as well. So, I think he looks like he'll stay all day. Like Jonathan Sweeney's talking about nationals for him down the line. Now, he wasn't fully committed that the horse would definitely go to the National Hunt Chase. Wanted to see how he came out of the race, etc. and that sort of thing. But imagine if he has any Cheltenham target, and if the lads have held on to him, the lads who own him now have held on to him, like the dream has got to be Cheltenham. And if it is Cheltenham, I think it's going to be the National Hunt Chase for him. The 10 up usually throws up a National Hunt Chase kind of there, and that's where the second is definitely going. John McConnell has already stated that, so he'd have a chance as well. In fairness, he ran well. He's only not very far. It was a real finish, so wouldn't put off anyone off the pair of them. I think it's good form, running a good time, and they're both alive in the National Hunt Chase for sure.
Went into Navan on Saturday, on Sunday, really fancying Mahler mission, and I suppose closer to the often. Just looking at Churchstone Warriors' form, about a second itis. He was second on 3 occasions, but no disgrace, second to the Devil's Coachman, to the Goffer, who of course has since come out and won a big handicap, and also, as you mentioned, Gallard and Millie, 7 lengths to find. But it's the type of horse he's doing his best work at the finish. And just on the Jonathan Sweeney angle, I mean, the small man heading into Cheltenham this season, I mean, the likes of Pat Neville, obviously, with the real whacker, Jonathan Sweeney, Charles Burns, obviously, that yard is growing. He's going into Cheltenham with some real life chances. There could be some big stories. Barry Connell, of course, as well. So horses with real life chances outside the remit of, your likes of your Willie Mullins, Gordon Elliott, and Nicky Henderson. So there'll be lots spoke about that in the lead up to Cheltenham, but we could have some big stories and smaller yards maybe taking some of these bigger prizes. I think I give him a real life chance, as you said, in the National Hunt Chase. I think he's a nice horse runner. Yeah,
for sure.
Lucia.
Yeah, I've the feeling this is going to wind you up, but she's grand. She won impressively on the bridle. I give you that. I'm not sure about the form in behind. Palace Boy, he was a 40-1 shot, bet out the park the last day. She made a bit of a Hames at the last, admittedly, with the races won. She was probably asleep. Just thought she was. I don't know you. I know you're a big fan, but like, was it as impressive?
Lots of horses falling asleep. Lots of horses falling asleep. Mr. Groome, I hope our viewers are not falling asleep looking at you after your Valentine's canoodling on last night. But anyway, just talking about Lucia. The only thing that would wind me up is people saying, that she's going to go to the Supreme and talking about the Supreme. Obviously, Nikki is a massive record, decent record in the Supreme Novices Hurdle, but clearly the Mayor's Novice Hurdle is our best chance of winning, and that's where she's going to go.
Yeah, well, there shouldn't be a Mayor's Novice Hurdle. That's a discussion for another day. So she should be automatically going.
Yeah,
there shouldn't be race like that. Astro Diamond and her, I'm naturally a backed Astro Diamond, so I'm slightly still trying to talk how it is, but I still think what she's done is over her overall form book is better than what Lucia has achieved this season. I don't think the Sunday run.
I'm absolutely mad about Lucia. I think what she's done so far on the track. Obviously, she's 2 from 2 over hurdles. You can maybe poke holes in her form, but she can only beat what's put in front of her. These small fields. I think she's top class, and I think she's going to take all the beating in that Mayor's Novice Hurdle. And of course, looking at the price, 6-1. I have her in. You will see her selections down below. We're going to run through the full list of them, but she's one of my more confident selections running at this point. That's Lucia for the Mayor's Novices Hurdle. Just looking at the other star ratings to look at. Hunter's Yarn. Now, obviously, Willie Bones has spoken about Hunter's Yarn. I've given him a 2-star. I cannot see for the life of me how this horse will go on and win a Supreme Novices Hurdle. There's a couple in here. I know the way you're thinking. Obviously, he's a horse been spoken about for the Martin Pipe. Imagine, will he go the handicap route at Cheltenham? This is a listed contest. American Mike has fallen in a hole. And it's just looking at, I suppose, Hunter's Yarn. They went a very, very slow pace early. He's absolutely clattered the first. He's slow at the second. And he's clattering hurdles all the way down the back. For me, I don't know, maybe in a better quality of race when it's run faster. This horse clearly has an engine. Maybe he will jump better. But similar to Ilete Tomp, I couldn't have either of those for Supreme Novice Hurdle, the way they jump. He obviously has clearly has an engine. He did have to be scrubbed out though. So he did have to be, ridden out towards the line. Wouldn't be for me. I don't know what you think about Hunter's Yarn. I've given very few 2-stars, Ronan. As you know, I'm quite generous with the ratings, but Hunter's Yarn would be a 2-star for me. Magic Days. Now, I absolutely loved her last season. As you know, I put her up for the Arkle. Things didn't go to plan the second half of the season for her. Biggest strength probably is, the way she jumps. She got her own way in front. Rachel Blackmore, went from the front here. She's given weight to Dino Blue, and I thought that was really decent. I think Dino Blue, in fairness to her, okay, she's not up to the level of maybe an Impervious or an Allegory the Vassie, but she's a decent mare and she jumps quite well. And I love the way Magic Days bullied her way to the front early on. There was a bit of a duel coming down to the first. Magic Days takes over, and she has had her own way for the remainder of the race, and she ping fences down the back. Just interesting, they're saying they're going to the Mayor's Chase. I mean, would she be dangerous on the front end, or could she pick up prize money in a Champion Chase? Again, it's the Mayor's Angle once again. Sorry, the Champion Chase, the way she jumps over 2 miles. I'm getting a bit of feedback, Roland. I'm just going to mute you. But just speaking about, Magic Days, the one thing I suppose to take out of the race for me is her going towards a Mayor's Chase, because that's what Robbie Power said. That's where she's going to go. Would she be a pest for the like of Allegory the Vassie up front, with her jumping? Would that potentially maybe put Allegory the Vassie's jumping under pressure? Could it be a duel up front? And would that play into the hands of Impervious? But I certainly would, with the Scarlet and Dove, of course, now unfortunately been ruled out of the Cheltenham Festival. Magic Days, certainly for me, would be maybe a decent value each way in the race and wouldn't be out of it. I think you'd have to love the way she pulled out after the last. You think Dino Blue is going to come and pick her up, and she didn't. I thought it was a real solid performance. So I'm going to give Magic Days a 4. That she ran an absolute cracker at Naas. And we're just looking at Blazing Cal. I mean, what's to say about this? Charles Burns, absolute master. And the way he's delivered this Blazing Cal, he's 4 from 4. He's unbeaten now over hurdles. He's given £5 to the second meet and greet, who's ran an absolute cracker as well. Interesting when they were speaking about about Blazing Cal in the pre-parade ring when they took the rugs off. I think there was a few ribs seen. So obviously he was fairly straight, and he needed to be to come here and actually go and win this, to be a contender for the Stayers. Off the back of a 400-day absence, I thought he'd done absolutely everything right. Settled, lovely for a horse that was off the track for so long. Jumped, which I think was a question mark, off the back of last season. His jumping would need to improve to be to obviously be a player in the Stayers. I was happy with that, and the way he pulled out, he put distance between himself and meet and greets, began to put distance between themselves and the rest of the field. Obviously he's beaten meet and greet snug by 3 lengths, and gone up to 3 miles again. I think Blazing Cal, I certainly wouldn't like to be taking him on. I think he's one of the stronger favourites at the festival now for me. What's your thoughts?
I agree with you. Yeah, I think Charles referred to that after the race. He said, it's fairly straight. It's fairly straight now today, is what he said. Like when I asked him, like, would you think he'd come on for the run, or I think people would automatically assume that the horse. Yeah, people would automatically assume that the horse, like coming off a 400-day break, winning, and then there'd be more to come again fitness-wise. And he did kind of say that. He said, yeah, naturally race fitness. But then he did also mention the bounce thing factor, which I thought was interesting. Some trainers believe in that sort of thing, where the second run after a big long layoff actually catches the horse out. And he said in an ideal world, the horse would have had 2 runs. But he also said as well, which would be slightly worrying if you are at Cheltenham, that if they miss Cheltenham, Aintree is always there. So that's kind
of. You really believe that?
Yeah, but like the horse has had a few setbacks. If he has another setback, then that's anything. It's all been niggly problems and stuff like that. So
I have to say, I think it's been a PR masterclass from Charles Burns on this horse all along, and not just Charles, but Colin, as we spoke to him on the podcast. Just got the sense as well, but the way that we're talking, this horse is pretty special, Mr. Groome, and I think. He's going to take the world of beating, provided, as you said.
I did think it was a big performance, because like when he was only rated 147 after that win last season. I thought he was like, I was saying this to guys at work, I was like, why is everyone going bananas about this Blazing Cal coming back? It's like he's only won a Grade 2 novice hurdle last season. He's only rated 147, and he was like 6 or 7 to 1 for the Stayers. Well, for him to go and do that on his first run back after 400 plus days was a fair big performance, in fairness. So fair play.
I think the standout quote for me when speaking to Carl, and obviously you mentioned 147 as a rating prior to the weekend. Carl basically in the interview had said, this is probably the smartest horse they've had for a long, long time. So Charles, I don't think they would say that lightly. And just on the whole Stayers hurdle, he needed to go and do what he done, didn't he, at the weekend, and he did. And to me, he was actually weak in the betting as well. I'm actually not surprised. You probably say, how could a Charles Burns horse be so weak in the betting and go and win? But I mean, probably everyone was out to take him on off the back of his absence, and probably thinking that he's going to come forward with interesting comments. Even in the parade ring, the reports were that he stripped quite fit. So, Blazing Cal, congratulations to anyone who's got him in at bigger prices. I'm just sorry I didn't myself when I was looking at the Stayers market. I unfortunately have to settle with Ashdale Bob, which is going to he's going to need to improve quite a bit. Our selections are down below. We're going to come to that, Mr. Groome, but the next section is, of course, the Tracker Horse.
Download the BOYLESPORTS app and receive generous offers for new and existing customers. BOYLESPORTS, this is betting.
What have you got for us this week, Groome?
Yeah, something happened on Sunday, so just saw a couple of interesting ones. Mentioned one already, flanking maneuver, I think speaks for himself. He was running off a huge layoff, came there tanking away and 10 up. Yeah, you're thinking he's going to win, and he probably just blew up, when he came off the bridle, and eventually has run on again against 2 race fit horses who we've just said are live players for the National Hunt Chase. So if they can find something for him, and maybe Cheltenham is too soon after just his first run back, like he wouldn't qualify for, probably not even entered in the National Hunt Chase, but if they can find something, maybe Fairy House or something like that, perhaps Punchestown, maybe if they got another lower key run into him and go for one of those spring festivals instead, I think he'd be interesting. I think a horse a lot of people latched onto as well was the run of Ring of Roses in the Oh My Lord maiden hurdle. Like, came from absolutely nowhere off the pace, was the only horse really to get into the race off the pace and finish third. Watch out for that going forward. Yeah, and obviously another one that everyone kind of latched onto. I guess these are more obvious ones, but I know the way you're thinking was obviously very interesting when he ran on. I think that was a bit of a, saving for another day kind of thing. He could be one. He qualifies for a mark now. Possibly the Martin Pipe would suit him over 2.5 miles. He did miss. I think it was the second last he missed. And Luke Dempsey just gave him a few strides to get him organised again, or let him kind of get back on the bridle, and then he really stayed on strong up the Navan Hill. So it looked to me like a nice trial now for something like the Martin Pipe. So we're looking out for him there, I'd say. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, Mr. Groome. You mentioned Ring of Roses. The one I was actually drawn to in that race, I know lots of people were speaking about Ring of Roses, but Banjaxed, I thought, coming to 2 out now, he was beginning to give Oh My Lord a bit of a fright. Lorna Fowler's charge, it was just his first run over hurdles, and was very, very strong in the betting in the morning. Was the night before was 20-1 into 9-2 before the off. So I thought it was strong. That'll have no trouble, let's say, winning a maiden. Banjax finished second to Oh My Lord. By Sire at the moment as well, Blue Brezel. I thought it shaped lovely. I know you've mentioned Ring of Roses finished third, but I think the two of those might be decent. Also, lots of talk was about the 4-year-old, the first 4-year-old race at Naas, of course, at the weekend, and the one that finished third there, Biker. We've mentioned Charles Burns. Also, wasn't totally weak in the market. Ran a very nice race and might just get in at the bottom of the weights in the Boodles. So Biker would certainly be on the short list. Nice horse. Like the way it shaped in the race at Navan. Obviously won by Sir Alan at Naas, I should say, won by Sir Alan. But Biker certainly won, and won actually Ronan from Plumpton on Monday. For the viewers, I think we'll win again. Lord Baddesley over fences. Won this off a £5 lower mark than its hurdles rating. Was a 4.5 length winner at Plumpton on Monday on decent ground. I'd say back at the same venue or even on a bit of nice ground for Lord Baddesley. And it's probably going to go up. I haven't seen the revised, but it's probably going to go up. You'd imagine £5 or £6 for that victory, if not more. But there's going to be more to come. Jump lovely. Doesn't the way it jumps didn't suggest it was a £5. It should be £5 lower over fences than it was over hurdles, and that was on penultimate run. So Lord Baddesley for a yard, absolutely flying at the moment. The Gordon team, of course, had Auchenrisk, who won the Bedford Hurdle at the weekend. But that's tracker horses. Some bang for your buck there, and put those into the tracker, and I'm sure we will be collecting more on those. Ronan Groome, it's time for the big question. That is the next section of the show. We usually do 2, but 3 this week.
Boyle Sports has it all. Money back meetings every day. UK and Irish racing live streaming. Extra places and money back all losers offers. And a bet 10 get 40 welcome offer. Boyle Sports, this is betting.
First question is from Chris Hooton. Chris is a big fan of Ronan Groome, always has been over the years. Mr. Chris Hooton, continue with your comments down below. And he's gone for me here, Mr. Groome. He's changed course and he's on the attack. Energumene. Has Energumene disappeared from the scene? Says Chris Hooton. Wins the champion chase. Anyone that got 2-1, close to 3-1 after the Clarence House, congratulations. And that's not me being, I know, I do think Energumene, I think the reports was a little bit short on fitness going to the Clarence House. Tactics as well. Mr. Groome, he was doing plenty, wasn't he, in the race, tucked in behind. I think where Energumene will win the champion chase for me is, between 4 and 2 out. Down the back where he's allowed to use his stride. I don't necessarily think he has to make the running, but I think you need to allow this horse to really use his stride. That's where he's gonna win the race. His jumping was a little bit sketchy. I think Willie mentioned, was it the white fences, Ronan Groome, with the white markings on the fences? I'm sure they'll have done a lot of work there. keep the faith. And obviously, the softer the better in terms of ground, but I don't think it's essential. So, Energamine, champion chase winner. I'm keeping the faith anyway, Mr. Groove. And just sorry, we hadn't recorded an episode the week that we had because we might have got a price boost. It could have been out to 3-1 because it was 2-1, 6-4 now at Boyle Sports for the champion chase. But Mr. Groome, it's all about the champion.
I'm not sure. I tend to agree with Chris. If that's what Chris is insinuating, that he's a bit worried or he's a bit concerned about Energamine is at, I'd be very concerned after the Clarence House. His ability to handle.
What would you be concerned about, Mr. Groome?
His ability to handle the track, his ability to handle quick ground. The form of the champion chase last year was absolutely pants. He got away with it last year in a bad race. His two main contenders fell or didn't complete. Obviously, Shishkin and Shakan, and he beat vastly inferior horses, easily on soft ground. And what was a bog? Literally everything came together for him. Quick ground, it seems to me like it could be a better race this year. Definitely than the one that he ended up winning last season, the way it all panned out. Yeah.
So just on that now, because I have to fight back here. I mean, that's just horrendous. Quick ground. I mean, he's won on quick ground. He won a point-to-point on good ground. He's won a Punchestown.
Man, you can't keep going back to that point.
Punchestown last season, good to yielding ground. He's won in yielding ground.
And what did he beat in Punchestown last year?
Champion chase winner, Fanabla de Savola. Came out, of course, and won at the weekend. So you're crabbing the form.
You can't hold it up with Fanabla de Savola.
You said this, Pat. Everyone has been saying that all year. And I mean, Fanabla de Savola actually has come out and won the weekend. No, listen. Obviously, it wasn't the best race in the world last season. It did cut up, no doubt about it. Look, I just think he's the best horse in the race, Mr. Groome. That's
still jumping out to his right and hanging to his right.
That was probably actually just on an Energamine. I did think the shifting out to the right has been a little bit more exaggerated the last day. I will give you that one. Okay. I think
it's okay to pick negatives in an Energamine. It's all right. It's okay. Do you know what? You could even back another horse in the race if you really want to.
I know look, I'm keeping the faith, Mr. Groome. Keeping the faith. You're against it. What would you be with, gentlemen? To me,
I think he's live. Yeah, I think Editor G has a good chance. I think Edward Stone is probably the one to beat Edward Stone. I think Editor G is live as well. Yeah.
Right. Next question. We'll move on. I think that's answered your question, Mr. Chris Hooton. I am still in the Energamine camp, very much so. Crazy Horse wants to know what are JP's best chances at the festival. And we were speaking about this off air. So it has to be Impervious, does it?
Yeah, I guess Impervious, Facker Diddery, I guess, and Ryanair, see how he gets on this weekend. Epatante.
In a competitive mares, he obviously has chances in grade ones. Maybe not so much like years gone past on Mr. Groome. Possibly the handicaps. I know the way you're thinking is one that stands out very much in the Martin Pipe at this stage. Anything in the handicaps catching your eye? It could potentially be in the JP Silks. What about Canada?
Yeah, Gavin Cromwell's one. Yeah, I think he's too lowly rated though, isn't he? He probably needs to win again.
He needs to win again, yeah.
Percival Lagalawal, I think. That could be one. Possibly Tekau, I guess a lot of people like him for the Boodles.
Tekau.
Interesting one, yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I don't think he's as well stocked as he has been in other years, for sure.
I tell you, he was fairly well stocked at Naas and at the weekend, of course. I think he had a treble at Naas at the weekend. Spallan's Tower, anyone that followed us in at the Thursday show, congratulations, was 100-30, backed into 6-4, didn't disappoint. Spallan's Tower, I think a nice surf for the Mangans, and certainly one to follow, I do believe. Right, next, not a vintage JP festival, perhaps. Carl Mount, okay. I'll take this one, Mr. Groome. Can you pick a trainer to follow at Cheltenham apart from Mullins, Elliott? Mine would be Skelton. Speaking of, we were saying like Charles Burns, right? Obviously, Shoot First and Blazing Cal, two very strong favourites, I think, going into the festival. So this could be Biker, as we mentioned, could be well treated coming into something like a Boodles. For me, though, Gavin Cromwell. I put up Pat Doyle on last week's show, Mr. Groome. Pat Doyle, a very, very interesting horse. I think Gavin Cromwell in the handicaps. I know the way you're thinking, obviously, is a horse that we mentioned a couple of times on this episode for the Martin Pipe. And, he's going to have other runners in handicaps. Gavin Cromwell, for me, in the handicaps, could be an angle, could be one to follow outside of, I suppose, the obvious. So I'm going to say Cromwell and Charles Burns going into the festival. Right, Mr. Groome, next section of the show is, of course, it is the portfolio spotlight, where we put a portfolio under the spotlight.
Download the BOYLESPORTS app and receive generous offers for new and existing customers. BOYLESPORTS, this is betting.
Right, Mr. Groome, I am very, very keen to find out who this Rob the Mongoose is. Rob the Old Mongoose from Bagnallstown, I do believe. And apparently he said in the comments he's going to let me know who is Rob the Old Mongoose the week before Cheltenham. So, of course, just a plug as well to Cheltenham preview night for the Bagnallstown Pitch and Puck Club, Mr. Groome, in the Red Lion on Friday, the 23rd of February. So maybe Rob the Mongoose, you might rock up there and unveil yourself. Who are you? Is what I want to know. But anyway, this is his portfolio. Now, Ronan Groome, you put in Gallamacrow last week for the Triumph Hurdle at odds of 6-1. He's put him in at 20-1. Some bet that.
But her in, we'll see. That's a fine bet, 20-1. So he's obviously miles ahead of where I'm at with her. But definitely live chance, and I'm sure he was delighted to see her win at Leopardstown Dublin Racing Festival. So yeah, huge chance, I think.
Risk Bell 25-1 for the Mayor's Novice Hurdle. Wrong race, I suspect. Fairly Hollow. Unlucky with that one. Was week 4. Galvin for the cross-country chase. Any mention of that when you're up in Gordon's?
No, but we've had a story. My colleague Mark Boland has just put that story online just before I came on here. Galvin is heading for the cross-country. So that's that all the way back in week 4. That was a fair call from Rob, because that's only really been revealed today, that Galvin heads there. So very interesting.
Yeah, interesting indeed. Chapeau de Salil, 11-1, was all the rage, of course, for the champion bumper. Oh, Ronan Groome. I'm going to skip over this because there was a couple of horses at different points in time that I was flirting with putting into the chat. But I mean, it's the champion bumper. I mean, Willie Mullins is going to have 5, 6, if not more, horses in here. And there's going to be horses back, right, left, and centre. It's for me to back him for a champion bumper at 3-1 now at this point in time, off the back of one run, where he essentially raced against probably very little up at Navan. That's very, very short. So, take your pick. For me, it's an absolute lottery, and I wouldn't be getting involved. Westport Cove, if he did turn up to a bumper, would be one that I would certainly give an each-way squeak to. I was impressed with him up at Fairy House. But Sir Gerhard, I think that's a wrong race in week 6. Of course, he's going for the Brown Advisory now. That's what he has said that. Sam Crow, 20-1 for the cross country. Did have a little setback prior to following Davy Boland giving him a positive mention. And I'm not sure if that's going to happen now. Samco did have a setback. Week 7 about that. Put the kettle on, 33-1 for the Mayor's Chase. No. The Real Whacker, week 9. I thought this was a good bet as well. 12-1 for the Brown Advisory. He's halved in price, Ronan Groome. And I suppose the closer we get to the festival, Pat Neville might have a real solid chance.
Yeah, it's wide open, that race. Yeah, Sam Crow was an unlucky one. I don't think he qualified for the cross country. But the Real Whacker, Pat Neville, didn't he smash in a hat trick yesterday? Trying to 1-2 as well. And yeah, he had to be impressed with the way he won the Dipper. Jumps really well, stays really well. Got to have a chance, yeah, for sure.
100%. And yeah, coming on down the list here, Risk Bell. He's gone in again for the Boodles.
Loves her.
He loves her. And yeah, sure, why not? I mean, she's contested a couple of graded races, didn't she? Unlucky then, of course, at Leopardstown at the DRF when, well supported. 16-1. She rocks up. I'm sure she's well treated anyway, Mr. Groome. Speaking about JP McManus, we've all been caught Haven't seen or heard an update since the DRA. Very disappointed. I mean, I put him in at 28 to 1. It was enhanced by BOYLESPORTS, and yeah, look, it's tricky, isn't it? I mean, we've all been caught. If he didn't run at the Dublin Racing Festival, you'd be giving him a massive chance. Certainly in terms of the
slow, though. He looked very slow. Just got outpaced, I think, and over the 2.6 there. So if he went for any race, I'd say he'd go for this one.
Yeah, 100%. I'd say he will run, and I'd say also soft ground. If it did come up soft, that would certainly be a help to him. Magical Zoe, Mr. Groome, 10 to 1 for the Mayor's Novice Hurdle. Obviously, she's been put away, but she was very impressive up and down.
Have you never heard of the name Zoe?
Oh yeah, this did come up before, didn't it? Anyway, if we want to start getting into pronunciations, don't worry, I'll be ready for you with your French pronunciations. 10 to 1, Magical Zoe. Would you give her a shot?
Yeah, that down Royal race is not too bad. The form is pretty okay. Haven't seen enough of her, I suppose. I don't know if this is always the plan, but yeah, she's got a chance, an outside chance. I'd say it looks a good. The two mares to the top, Lucia and Astro Diamond. This race could be pivotal to me and you, Basil, when all's said and done. So they look the ones to beat.
Yeah, 6 to 1 and 7 to 1. Lucia and Astro Diamond top of the market. I would certainly be looking towards the front of the market when it comes to the Mayor's Novices Hurdle. Marie's Rock. This is great now. And in fairness, I look back at the Relkeen a couple of times since, and I wasn't giving her maybe the credit she deserved on that occasion. And obviously, Dash and Thrasher has come out and run a cracker. The Gold Tweed, obviously, the French horse comes into the mix as well. But Marie's Rock now, looking like a lively 8 to 1 is solid. I think it's 9 to 2 non-runner a bet for the stairs. I think if she goes for the stairs, I think she's a massive player. But Blazing Cal, obviously, the one to beat. But she would certainly be the danger for me, Ronan Groome, if she ran.
She's got a great chance in the stairs, I think, for sure. Yeah, getting the £7, she's really good. As we discussed last week, there's not much of a difference in her chance when you compare the two races because the mares are so competitive.
Okay, let us know down below who's in the box seat here, because Ronan Groome, well, look, he could have packed it in after about 10 weeks of the show. He's come back firing now, and I think he's in a pretty good position. I think we're in. Look, there's some really solid ones in there, Mr. Groome. I want the viewers, let us know down below who's in pole position. Are we neck and neck down to what is probably at this stage 4 out, Ronan Groome, in the Road to Cheltenham Challenge. Dysart Dynamo, of course, just on this run, I put in to date, I've put in 13 selections. You've put in 12, so you're one behind me. 20 selections, and of course we do have as well that additional team captain as well. So in total, 21 selections each. Obviously, there's 4 weeks to go, so we're going to cram in 2 episodes the 2 weeks before the Cheltenham Festival. But just rattling down through these very, very quickly before we come on to our selections this week. Dysart Dynamo, 12 to 1 for the Arkle. Happy with that. You know, to me, it's probably a 3-runner race now at this stage. 12 to 1, he's going to go off probably shorter than half those odds. Scarlet and Dove, big disappointment. Took a blow at that, Mr. Groome, this week. Obviously, she's made a setback and won't run. Scratch from the mare's chase. Staffler, 21 for the Gold Cup. I think he's 6 to 1 with BOYLESPORTS now, non-runner no bet. The each way bet in the race still for me. You know, I think he's a bet to nothing. I think he's going to be on the premises. 3 mile 2 furlong going to really suit him. Lucia, we've mentioned her a couple of times, 6 to 1. She's obviously clear favourite now, 7 to 4 with BOYLESPORTS. 6 to 4, I should say, with BOYLESPORTS for the Mayor's Novices Hurdle. Chemical Energy. Look, I suppose if you draw a line through his most recent start at Naas, where he's run a good race to a point, probably blew up. He's probably a prep for him. Going back to Cheltenham is going to suit. 9 to 1. I think you can get 7 to 1 available about Chemical Energy with BOYLESPORTS currently. Look, has a chance. Good ground. The better the ground, the better his chance. Lossy Mount, provided, I suppose, Leopardstown didn't take, as Willie Mullen said in the aftermath, a lot out of her. I mean, it was a big effort to finish where she did, considering, all that developed in the race. 7 to 2. I think she's the best filly in the race. She comes in the exact same form as she did at Christmas. and she takes the world of beating. 7-4. She's 7-2 in the challenge. She's 6-4 now. She's the one to beat. Although I am more afraid of the horse you didn't put up, Ronan Groome. Blood Destiny for me would be the danger, not Gala McCrow. Blue Lord, 18-1. Obviously, ran flat at the DRF. 18-1. Looks a massive price now at Allaho. Of course, the sad news that Allaho will miss the Cheltenham Festival. So he was taking up, a good, for a long time, he was taking up 33% of that market. 18-1 Blue Lord. If he comes into the Cheltenham Festival, I'd say he would go to the Ryanair now, first of all. And if he comes into the festival like he did in the form he did at Christmas, he's definitely the one to beat. Parmenion, 33-1, scrap that. Mark Red, because he's obviously not going to go for the Supreme. We've all been caught 28-1 runs in the race. I'd say you could go off maybe 16-1, maybe shorter on the day. Love Enva, 11-2. Most competitive race of the whole meeting. If it's soft ground, she's a massive chance. If it's good to soft, I think she'll run a huge race. Ashdale Bob Stairs Hurdle, 14-1. I was disappointed he didn't run Ronan Groome in the Boyne Hurdle. Not sure if you have heard an update on Ashdale Bob, but 14-1. I think we're up against it there. Protect the Rat. Skelton's very, very bullish that it was just a prep. And, he's going to, I wouldn't throw that slip in the bin, Protect the Rat. I think he's an each-way chance in the Gold Cup. And Pat Doyle is one in a handicap. My first handicap selection that I would be quite sweet on Ronan Groome. I think 18-1 is a very decent price. Talk us through yours.
So Gentleman to me, live again in the Champion Chase. Not much better than 14-1, but at least he seems like he'll go there and has a reasonably good chance of being involved in the finish. If he can get jumping, I think he is in front. I think he has a good chance. Echoes and Rain, I've seen Price-Wise put her up today for the Mayors. I think she's definitely a contender in what's probably one of the most competitive races the whole festival, so I think she's okay. Ashrow Diamond, we kind of spoke about her already. I think that's going to come down to the two mares and that mare's novice, and I'm more than happy. If you gave me a choice now out of the two, I'd back Ashrow Diamond at 7-2. Arctic Breslin, you can mark that red as well because he's no longer in the Supreme. But the rest, then I had 6 in a row who all look like they're going to go running the races and look in reasonable shape. So Aplutard, obviously, he's around 7-1 mark. He's probably not going to go much shorter than that, but definitely going to stay around that sort of price for the Gold Cup.
Treacar Bragg and Banbridge must be the two you're probably most looking forward to.
Yeah, I still think Classical Dream will run. I think slightly more positive bulletin about him. Like if he runs, I don't think he'll be 9-1 shot on the day. I think he'll be 5-1 max, possibly shorter. So I think he's live as well. I like Champ.ie and I like Gala Marceau. I think 6-1 is still a good price about her. So look, there's nothing amazing there. Banbridge, as you say, is probably my best on the card. Nothing amazing there, but we're alive.
So quickly before we come on to this week's selections, actually listening to, obviously watching the racing at the weekend and thinking of the Jerry Hannon impressions, the horse that we put up earlier on in the show, we were saying, imagine a veteran's chase or a hunter's chase maybe around Thurles, maybe in about 7 or 8 years' time between Banbridge and Banjaxt. Banjaxt. Like the name. Banjax, of course, our horse that we put forward in the tracker section for Lorna Fowler. Right, Ronan Groome, enough of the skitting and the joking and the messing. Right, come on to the serious business, the selections.
Boyle Sports has it all. Money back meetings every day. UK and Irish racing live streaming. Extra places and money back all losers offers. And a bet 10 get 40 welcome offer. Boyle Sports, this is betting.
Do let us know who has the healthiest looking portfolio. Myself for the Ronan Groome. Ronan Groome, you're up. Selection week number 14.
Yeah, I think it had to be the Ryanair chase. The big news this week, Allaho is going to miss the festival. Sad for not to be able to see the good horse again that he is. He's obviously blitzed the race the last 2 years in a row. But from a purely selfish betting proposition, the race is a lot more interesting now. It's a lot more open. So I was always going to have a crack at this. And to be honest, it was a horse I was actually thinking about putting up earlier in the year. French Dynamite for Mouse Morris. There he is. Things you love to see. Go on, a Mouse. So latest is he's also another person. My colleague Mark Boland talked to today. Latest on him will be in the Irish Field on Saturday. But he's on track for the Ryanair Chase. He ran an absolute stormer earlier in the season in the Paddy Power. He was well fancied there. Travelled into the race lovely and might have won it on another day. Hit the front and got taken on late by Gala. Like, I think that's really good form. The third and fourth have won big handicaps back over that course and distance or on the new course since Midnight River and Il Ridotto. French Dynamite then went on and finished fourth in the, he might have been fifth actually, in the Savills Chase at Leopardstown over Christmas. There's a really good stat on going for the Ryanair, and I'll give credit where credit is due, is to Matt Toombs. I don't know if anyone follows him on Twitter, but he's excellent with his trends in Cheltenham, and he pointed out that, I think I probably got this wrong, but 9 of the last 14 or 15 Ryanair winners basically came down from 3 miles or were beaten in a Grade 1 chase over 3 miles. And so likes of Allaho was beaten in the Savills that year and then came back down and trip. So don't discount the Grade 1 form over 3 miles is the basic message. So horses coming down from the King George and the Savills, they're live here. We'll get over this 2.5 mile intermediate distance. And I think that's what French Dynamite's all about. He needs good ground. The 2.5, he just didn't stay the trip in the Savills. He travelled into that race lovely, looked really dangerous turning for home, then just faded away over the 3 miles. Back to 2.5 here. Back over this course and distance where he ran so well earlier in the season. I think he's a definite chance. 16-1 is a good price in a market that looks wide open now, and he's confirmed to be going for the race. So French Dynamite is my latest week 14 selection.
Yeah, very, very interesting, of course, on the new course as well. Lots of people like to take that angle. Ronan Groome stepping, I suppose, down and trip from the 3 miles for the Ryanair. And I suppose I've taken the opposite angle, Blue Lord coming up and trip potentially. So fair play to you. Right, that is week number 14. That wasn't, I promise you, that wasn't being condescending.
That was the most condescending fair play to you've ever heard.
I'm only joking with you. I actually think he's a nice horse, and just, I suppose they're not going to go for the play, aren't they? They're going to have a go at this. So, best of luck to the Mouse. What am I going with here, Ronan Groome? Goodland for the Ballymore. Angle I'm taking with Goodland is, look, I'm putting BOYLESPORTS are the standalone. I suppose they're the best industry price about Goodland, and I think, in fairness, there's probably an argument to say that Goodland should be close to favourite. I think 5-1 is a bit of value here about Goodland. Look, I can see him going off short of this on the day. And just looking back at the Dublin Racing Festival, coming into the race, obviously my eyes were on We've All Been Caught. I thought he'd run an absolute cracker. And really, I suppose looking through the form of Goodland, I mean, he really impressed me the last day. He's a really progressive horse. I think he's a fair tool. By sire of the moment now, Ronan Groome, Blue Brezel. He's a 7-year-old. Obviously, 6-year-olds have a cracking record in this particular race. Sir Gerhard won it last year as a 7-year-old. Maybe that little bit more, I suppose, he's developed. He had his problems after a bumper. He finished second in the bumper and, had the problems off the track for 700 odd days. But obviously, he's won a bumper at Wexford. He's progressed. He was brought down early in the race, of course, behind Joy and Machine when going off, close to favourite. That was a fairy house. But since then, he's obviously progressed. Obviously, an 8-length winner at Christmas. And, I thought he really impressed me. Well, what I like about this horse is he's going from strength to strength, but I think his biggest strength is the way he travels and jumps and the way he relaxes in particular through his races. Barry Connell, I think, quote from Barry Connell, he's been very bullish in his comments. I know that, but he did say his mentality is bomb-proof. He's a really good mind. And I just loved what he done coming to the second last. And I think a lot of races were probably one coming to the second last, between the second last and the last at Leopardstown at the DRF. But he's travelled into that race like, much the best horse. They've gone, in fairness, you said We've All Been Caught as slow. He didn't pick up, but in fairness, they did go a good clip. It's really good form. I think the Nathaniel Lacey is very much the race to follow, I suppose, coming into the Ballymore. The Chello, we all spoke about, Hermes Allen's top of the market currently at 94 BOYLESPORTS. The Chello, we all spoke about how strong it was going into the race. But I don't think it developed. I mean, the form isn't really working out. And there's been plenty in behind who have been beaten, well stuffed since. And it was on really deep, it was really testing ground at Newbury. So how, is he full value for the victory? Obviously he's a nice horse. Nichols has never won the race. There's going to be lots spoke about. 20 Chello winners have yet to go on and win the Ballymore. I don't fully buy into that, but I think Goodland deserves probably to be close to favourite. I think 5-1. There's a little bit of juice in that. He's going to the race. And for me, Imperial Park could be genuinely anything. He was a June foal. He's a 5-year-old. I think the last 5-year-old to win it was the new one. So look, it might be just coming a little bit early in his career. Now, how much experience has Imperial Park? He's won a maiden that has worked out absolutely brutal. Imperial Park is absolutely shot there. Of course, that Nace, the famous Jerry commentary. But, how strong was the Moscow Flyer? I thought that was a weak Moscow Flyer, personally. It's a big, big step up coming into this. And look at that Nathaniel Lacey Ronan Groome. You have 8 horses in there. It was really competitive. They all won over hurdles and are all fair sorts. So I think that's really strong form. And there could be more to come. And this fella has proven his stamina as well, over further. So when horses are struggling, I think this horse, they're probably, I think the words from Barry Connell is they're just scratching the surface with him. I think he's strong. I like him. I think there's a real touch of class about him. Do you like him? What's your thoughts?
Like the horse, yeah, for sure. I'd be slightly worried that he beat a lot of kind of stayers in that race, like to Sander Clegane, Absolute Notions, all possibly Albert Bartlett bound. That would be my only thing. He is a pacey horse, so maybe he should have been.
That's where he won the race. I think that's where he won. I mean, yeah.
But I'm just saying that if he is more of a pacier horse like Barry Connell thinks he is, and he was meeting a lot of more Albert Bartlett type slower horses there, he could look better than he actually was, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. I think he's a live chance for sure. I do like the angle of a speedier horse in the Ballymore. That's why I've gone for Champ.ie with his grade 1 form over 2 miles. I think that's the angle I like to take anyway, but I definitely would respect Goodland, of course. Yeah. Fair play to you.
I like the way I like the way he's going. I like the way he travels through his race. I like the way he goes about his business. 5-1 in a week that my portfolio took a bit of a battering there with Scarlet and Dove. I needed to get another solid one in before we start really looking at handicaps. Mr. Groome, that has been episode number 14. We'll be back, of course, next week, hopefully earlier in the week. Valentine's isn't next week, so you might be able to get your act together this week. And of course, we might as well. Of course, this week's Thursday show, we're going to be taking a look at the championship races. So lots of fun, Mr. Groome. It's really hotting up, and we'll be back next week with episode number 15. See you later.
Inside the final 150 yards, this is a special year, and it's a Hattons for the break. And it's Energumen opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. Energumen by a romping 10.
Download the BOYLESPORTS app and receive generous offers for new and existing customers. BOYLESPORTS, this is betting.